All right, we're live.
So a couple weeks ago, we were talking about Rasheed Wallace and the amount of trades that he had in 1 year. So made me go kind of deep digging, and I think we're all familiar with Luke Rittenhauer. Very famously, he was traded 4 times in 1 week, late in the 2015-2016 season. But I'm convinced there was a fifth trade because at the end of the day, after that fourth trade, he got traded to the retirement home because after that, he never played again. He got traded 5 times in 1 week. Last time to the retirement home. Luke and Rittenhauer, shout out to you, but you got traded out of the league very funnily.
I'm about to get mine and it's about time. Call us Grindhouse, everybody in a house grind. I'm just doing me, I ain't trying to outshine. Trying to kill my vibe is how you get outline.
What's up, guys? Today is December 2nd, December 2025. This day's NBA history fact, Ralph Bird was born today. A very short NBA career, made 2 All-NBA teams, but is most famously known with his teammate Alex Groza with the points shaving scandal at Kentucky. He was an All-American 2 times with Alex Groza, but he had a very short-lived career because of the fact that he got pled guilty to the point shaving scandal. But with the noticeable jump that both Groza and Ralph made from their senior year at Kentucky, back-to-back national title teams, to the NBA, could they be classified as what ifs? Because they're both 15, 16, at least Ralph was a 15, 16 point per game scorer, and all NBA first and second teamer and all-star. Were they just inevitably just bad people? Or what's the consensus about Ralph? Tony, you can start.
Well, I think you got to go with Ralph. You got to shout out to him. He's clearly a staple of the Indianapolis Olympians. Him and Alex Groza, those are clearly the 2 best players there. Groza is by far the best player. I think it's a mark of integrity. So I don't know what they were paying. I don't know what they were making. But yeah, I mean, so I think it's a lack of integrity, and I think anybody that becomes a bad person, there is a lack of integrity. That's what I got to say about that.
Hoops, what about you?
Yeah, definitely a what if. What was it, like 16 points per game for 2 years? In the 49, 50, 51, something like that. Yeah, I think he's a what if. There's other guys that are involved in point shaving scandals. Connie Hawkins, for example, I think is a huge what if, who was banned from the NBA for a time and then went to the ABA, won ABA MVP, right? He's definitely a big what if. The point shaving scandals, it's funny because we think about this now in the light of what happened with Chauncey Billups, but it is kind of an old hat for the NBA. This was happening in the 50s and 60s. Doug Moe was another one who ended up having to play in the NBA, did later come back to coach. I mean, in the ABA, did later come back to coach in the NBA, I do believe.
Awful suits. Some of the most awful suits you've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, yeah, they're definitely what ifs, but it's not a what if in the way that Tracy McGrady's a what if or Derrick Rose is a what if. They're a what if because they're bad people that did a bad thing. Although I do think Connie Hawkins was at least partially exonerated from all of that. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that was bullshit with Connie Hawkins. Shout out to Connie. I met Connie when I was like 12. I asked him if he could still dunk. Asked him to dunk the basketball for me. He said, "Fuck no." And that was my entire relationship with Connie Hawkins.
Well, that was your day in NBA history.
NBA history. We got some more facts.
That was your day in NBA history. No, that's your day in NBA history.
There you go. So we want to talk about this. We're going to get into the player ranking, because obviously it goes for a while, and we're running behind, just trying to get out of the 60s by November. But here we are. But we want to talk about influence. Okay, I want to talk about that. So I wanted to ask you guys because we got into this conversation earlier. What is influence to you, and then what would you value in influence? Jules, you're the one that actually broach this subject first with us. So what would you value in influence, and what's more valuable in influence? Let's start off there.
Well, it's funny because if influence can go in like so many different ways, right? Because the evaluation of a player and how they impact the league, but like globally as well. And that's why we have these conversations. Everybody will point to Allen Iverson and Kobe, LeBron, Michael Jordan because of what they were doing off the court. But if we keep it within the four lines, like there's a lot of people who influence the game that are like pioneers. Again, we talked about the creation of the jump shot, the extension of the lane, the stat guys that created rebounds and assists and not just points. So it's like the evaluation and influence is so it's so funny because you can go in plenty of different ways, and that's why I think when people have that as a set criteria, it's kind of flawed because that goes into, I think, favoritism a lot, and that's not consistent with a lot of these arguments that we talk about, because your influence would then subjectively try to make you a greater player than somebody else. Like for example, I'm not the biggest Chris Paul fan, but as a player, I think he's an all-time great. So influence, I think, can go in so many different directions, and it's so broad that it really determines on what you value. And I just don't know why that would be a set criteria when we talk about basketball. Like it's something that's very weird and very iffy to me. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring it up, because we were talking about it earlier, and influence just can go so many different ways when you have these conversations.
Here's my thing with influence. Influence can never really be in a vacuum, right? So like we're talking about the early 60s. Assume we're going to talk about Bill Russell. Bill Russell was obviously very influential in how the game is played, right? Rim protection, fast break, all of that. But Bill Russell is standing on the shoulders of players that came before him. Bill Russell is standing on the shoulders of George Mikan, right? And the same thing when we talk about guys like Steph Curry. Is Steph Curry influential? Of course. Is he one of the most influential players of all time? Of course. But you know who came before Steph Curry? Steve Nash. You know who Steve Nash's GM was? Steve Kerr. You know who Steph Curry's coach was? Steve Kerr, right? So we talk about influence when people try to value.
And Nash was a consultant for him too.
And Nash was a consultant. He actually won his championship as a consultant. He famously didn't go to the ring ceremony because he was like, I didn't win as a player. I won as a consultant. I don't care. Right. And so when we talk about influence and how it impacts a player's legacy, I mean, sure, of course, we can like talk about how it affects a player's legacy, but to say a player being more influential than another in terms of how the game is played does not make them necessarily a better player than another. That's my issue with influence. It can matter. Like if, again, I'm going to bring up Curry. Curry had an impact on how the game was played, and it's because he was very, very good, and it's because he won championships being very, very good, right? But like, you know, there's also other influencers like James Harden, right, who influenced the game in a way that probably wasn't all that great. There was Sham God influenced the game, right? Jason Williams influenced the game. There's all kinds of people that influence the game. Inside the four corners of the court, like Jules said, when we talk about their legacy, I think that's important. But when we go to like global impact, or how important was this guy in China, or like stuff like that, does it matter for the game? Yeah. Is it beneficial to the game? Absolutely. Was Allen Iverson beneficial to the game? Yes. But that does not make him a better player than, let's say, Clyde Drexler or George Gervin.
Can I have a side note on that? If Stephon Marbury is the GOAT of China, and that's the most populated country, wouldn't Stephon Marbury, with the number of people, have more of a global impact than most people?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. That's the point. Like, so when we talk about influence and how it impacts the four corners of the court, sure, that plays into the legacy, because usually that means they're dominant, right? That usually means they're dominant players that win a lot, and the way they're playing basketball is effective. And so that absolutely plays into it. But it always has to be, okay, but what's the product on the court they produce? That has to be considered. Like when we say like, oh, well, they changed the game, right? Okay, but They may have changed the game, but did they win? Right? Did they produce? We all, when we talk about influence too, we often forget the influence other players had. Like Magic Johnson was deeply influential to the game. When we talk about Curry versus Johnson, Magic Johnson was just as impactful, being a 6'9" power forward size guy who can dribble the ball like a guard. You ever heard of LeBron James? You ever heard of Luka Doncic, Penny Hardaway, Cade Cunningham? Right? They're all influenced by Magic Johnson. The problem is sometimes we don't see that influence happen in real time like we did with a guy like Curry, because it's already happened. It's already been normalized. So when we talk about influence, it's fine, but I really hope people get a full context of influence and do their research into, okay, who influenced the game how? That's it.
Well, if we're doing that, like let's do two different ones, because I brought it up earlier. Let's go with George Mikan, right? So George Mikan arguably has, you could argue it over Jordan. You could argue over Jordan, the peak. You know what I mean? I don't think there was a bigger gap ever in the history of the NBA between the best player and the second best player than George Mikan was the best player. So he won. He created the shot clock, wide lane. He did much changes. So why don't people value his impact? And he won. What's the argument then?
Not only that, he basically forced all these racist owners to integrate the league to bring in a bigger talent pool because he was so dominant. Like, correct. There's actually no player or figure in NBA history I think is more influential than George Mikan. But we never take that into account. You know why? Because people didn't see George Mikan play. They don't like they want to call 50s plumbers. They like the players they grew up seeing play. And so LeBron, Kobe, Jordan, etc. So it never really gets talked about.
And then what do you think, Jules?
I think I agree. I think the intangibility of what we're seeing now, because of the arguments of this is the best era of basketball of all time, they're more influential because of the amount of competition, and what they're doing now is incredibly impactful. But again, this is why I will stand 10 toes down on this. Is the people before will always have more impact than the people now, because no one understood what was the infancy of this league and basketball in general. And they will discredit it because they think that people were coming out tweening and shooting fadeaway threes from its infancy. And the people who realize that it wasn't necessarily that will then discredit it because it's like, okay, they were so bad for the era, but won't put the context, the rules, and all this kind of stuff. So it's because people take for granted the reasons why the NBA specifically is what it is today. It's because all these guys had to pave the way first so that we are now succeeding now.
So then I wanted to ask this. So then, and we talked about this earlier, so, I just want to get it on record for everybody. Then what do we think of Glenn Roberts or Kenny Sailors, who created the jump shot? They say Glenn Roberts created it. They say Kenny Sailor popularized it. So where do we give somebody like that? Because literally every player does it. Like we talked about Harden. Like, growing up, in my era, we all wanted the 40-inch vertical. You know what I mean? Harden showed this generation, if you can't have that, you can at least have the 40-inch step back. So, but not everybody uses the 40-inch step back. But everybody uses the jump shot. So where does that influence go? Hoops?
Right.
Go ahead, Jules. Looked like you were on a.
You go on a hot roll for it.
I'm sorry, Hoops, but that's what I'm saying is that if we're going back to these guys who created the fucking shot, then who has more influence than them other than like Hoops, you said, like George Mikan, right? Is that now people are shooting set shots, which obviously is ugly and it's not as effective as a jump shot depending on the person, but it's like, where does this lie? And again, going back to the problem at hand, people evaluating influence, they don't even know who these guys are and how they would impact for the rest of time. It's the dumbest argument, and it's up there with like loyalty when it comes to evaluation of players. It's right there. It's like, influence doesn't mean that much in analysis. And when we're talking about basketball, same thing with loyalty. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's just people. Here's the thing, like we want to talk about Kenny Sailor and all that, and people don't want to talk about the NBL or the early or the BAA. And so when we talk about influence and how it impacts a person's legacy and how it might make someone better than the other, when we talk about influence, it's usually just specific criteria used to elevate a certain player, right? That's really what it is. Because again, if we're going to talk about influence, if influence is really going to be in your all-time ranks, you got to have George Mikan in your top 5 at least. Got to have him in your top 3 at least. Because again, there has been no player more impactful to the NBA. Everybody wants to talk about, again, Curry with the pace and space. George Mikan's the original pace and space revolutionary. What's the pace? Well, 24-second shot clock. That changed the pace. The space, well, the key was double the length to space the floor, right? That is
Right.
That is the pace and space, So when people use influence, I think it's important to talk about influence. I think it's really important to talk about how people impacted the game and all of that. I think that's one of the cooler parts about studying basketball's history. But people just use it in a very, I think, pernicious way, and they use it as a cudgel to beat down other players.
Did you say pernicious and cuddle in the same word?
Yeah, a cudgel.
Yeah,
cudgel. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, so
How
like,
deep is your vocabulary bag?
Shit.
Yeah. So that's it. People just use it in a way that as a cudgel to beat other players down instead of being like, this is actually pretty cool. Like, it's cool that Steph Curry did this. It's cool that Sham God created the Sham God, even though Bob Cousy was technically doing it before, right? That stuff is really cool to me. Bob Cousy, who's more influential than Bob Cousy for point guards? Really nobody. There is no Jason Williams, Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, any of them, Chris Paul, without Bob Cousy. Bob Cousy was doing things that most NBA coaches and owners I would classify. They'd probably see it as too exotic, right, for the time, and so. But we don't want to talk about Bob Cousy as a potential top 5 point guard of all time, which I think he is. Could be argued. I think he could be argued top 3 point guard of all time, which I think you can be argued, because we don't want to do that. We just want to talk about players that we grew up seeing, that we like seeing, that are more relevant to us.
Well, wait. You want how nasty it was, Jules? I think you were the one we were doing this conference. I don't think you were there for the Hoops. But we literally found out from some random motherfucker on TikTok that Bob Cousy, as the 3rd best guard in the league, was obsolete once Jerry West and Oscar Robertson came in 1960. He was completely obsolete after that.
He won 3 more championships after that?
Correct.
Yeah, all NBA,
all NBAs.
Yeah, top 5 in MVP voting, shit like that.
Obsolete. Yeah.
Hey, he's the only point guard I've ever seen that can skip dribble into a left-handed 20-foot hook shot.
Mm-hmm.
You ever watch you guys seen Blue Chips?
Yes, and I know what you're going to say. There's the scene where he's shooting the free throws.
Just banging him in at 75. Just banging him in.
Yeah. I actually just saw a TikTok video on that, and apparently that whole thing was improvised.
Yeah.
He was asking him, hey, do you ever miss? Right? And he just kept on hitting free throws. But we're supposed to believe he's unskilled, despite the fact that in his 70s, he's draining free throws at a rate that none of us or most people that are listening or most people on TikTok or anywhere else couldn't even dream of.
Right.
Yeah, it's just weird. And then I got another question as we're getting into this, and we'll see how fast we go through the rankings. But now it's got my mind curious on this. Is there any other sport where the cognitive dissonance is more deeply involved than in basketball? Because like I'm not as deeply involved in other sports, but when I have these conversations, it's just like here, I'll give you a prime example. I've never seen this before. Kobe Bryant's the only player ever to go back-to-back without a top 75. Well, George Mikan did a back-to-back, and he went 3 straight overall. So not only is he not the only ever, he did it better. George Mikan! That doesn't count because I said so. I don't know. But I'm saying, is there any other ones where, like, somehow shit doesn't – something that happened doesn't count, even though – the Lakers hang those fucking banners. The jerseys retired. The statues outside. We do the fucking Mikan drill. We play with rules because of him. I don't get. Is there any other sport that we do this?
I don't really think so. I mean, isn't like Babe Ruth is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, baseball player of all time. I think you've taught it before. Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest boxer of all time. So no, I don't really think there's a sport where people are so hostile towards players beyond a certain generation. I don't think. Jim Brown, another one. A lot of people consider the greatest running. If you said Jim Brown's the greatest running back of all time, I wouldn't be like, that's fucking stupid. It's obviously Walter Payton. No, I wouldn't do that because Jim Brown led a dynasty on his legs, right? And so like, and I think people aren't as hostile. Some people, some people say Jim Brown's the greatest football player of all time, and that's fine. I say Tom Brady. I'm from New England, but that's fine if you want to say Jim Brown, right? So I think this is the only sport where people are just, I think, so emotionally invested in the present, and emotionally invested in certain players that they get hostile towards players that came before, players that might have accomplished more than they have.
There has been some spikes because I am a baseball fan. There's been some spikes recently within the past 5 years about the elder years of Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, because of specifically the pitching that has been going on lately with all the movement. But granted, they're blowing out their arms within 4 seasons. So there's been some spikes of that very recently, but I would say really other than that, I don't hear much on anything else. I don't.
Tommy
and it's
John,
just Tommy John.
Tommy John is a rite
thing.
of passage basically for pitchers.
Literally, like if you don't get Tommy John, you're not good anymore, right? Yeah. So I would say maybe baseball, and that's just very, very, very new, but I don't think anywhere else.
And then too, like the example I gave, you said someone's only to do something ever, and then you get proven wrong. Do you immediately scoff and somehow say it doesn't count, or do you just adjust what you're saying?
Right.
And that's the egos that we've talked about for months, Tony, is the egos of these people, because they want to be absolutely correct about everything that they say, and we're living in a society where it's like it's black and white, it's right and wrong, where most of the time they don't even know that they're spewing the shit is wrong. Only the absolutes that they say in these sentences is factually wrong. And when we correct them, when the people on the other platforms on this channel correct them, they get all pissy. And it's like, well, don't say everything in absolutes. Just don't. Because if you don't know, say, hey, be more open-minded and say, this is what I think. I think Kobe, or at least I've seen Kobe do this. I don't know anybody else who's done it. Maybe I'm wrong. Because that changes the whole perspective of, okay, now I'm open to listening to somebody else. And if Kobe's one of these players, that's cool, but not then the only person to fucking do it.
Well, as someone that's middle-aged, I've learned this in life, and I don't know if anybody wants to agree. Generally speaking, obviously there's some exceptions to every rule, but you should try to stay away from the words always and never.
Yeah.
So that's
I've
hard
learned
to do.
that.
Yeah. So we want to get to our rankings and stuff. We went a little over time, but let's see if we can knock this out.
Sure.
Okay. So we're at 64 now. I remember I had Ben Wallace at 64, so I don't have a dog in this fight. Where does everybody have? Who's everybody got at 64?
Pull up the list. Here we go. 64. I have Ray Allen.
I have Ray
Allen
as well.
I got Ray Allen a little higher. I had him at like 56, but I'm cool.
56. I have Paul. At 56, I have Paul Pierce.
Oh, see, I have 50. I have Paul Pierce at 51.
Fair enough. I have Ray Allen 64, Bill Walton 63, McGrady 62, and I had swapped Embiid. I think we swapped Embiid, right? Because I had Embiid at 61, but I think we swapped him out. Then I had Dominique Wilkins at 60, Bob McAdoo at 59.
See, I got Wilkins at 58. I got McAdoo a little higher. I got McAdoo at 44, so I got McAdoo at 40.
That would be fine with me. I mean, I'm not.
But, yeah, well, I think a guy that peaks at 35 and 15 with an MVP, you know what I mean? You could argue that he's a better center than Kareem for a season, during Kareem's peak. It just holds a lot of weight with me on that one.
Fair enough. That's fine with me.
Who do you got at 64, Jules?
I have Ray Allen as well.
Then I think we gotta lock it in. I'm outvoted, so I'm cool with locking Ray Allen at 64.
And I think we could talk about Ray Allen for a second. Never had never had a super high peak, but was always very consistent. Gives you usually about 20 points per game on great efficiency. Considered the best shooter of all time for about 3 or 4 years, right? Until Curry came in and redefined like what a shooter was. But like Ray Allen had the all-time 3-point record. He led his team, the Milwaukee Bucks, to the conference finals, went 7 games with Allen Iverson and the Sixers. Still says to this day that series was rigged to get Allen Iverson in the finals, considering what was going on back then. I am inclined to not reject that out of hand. Never, I think he's a 2-time all NBA, maybe for a third team and a second team. Had a peak of 26 points per game with the Sonics. That Sonics team, I think, really flies under the radar in terms of being how influential they were offensively because of the Steve Nash Suns that were had happened that same year. But the Sonics had the second best offense. They ran the second most pick and roll, shot the second most threes, and they had 2 6'10" guys in Vladimir Radmanovic and Rashard Lewis hitting 3-pointers at a high clip for that era and a very efficient clip, 39-40%. And Ray Allen, I think, was the engine behind that offense. So ended up being a great tertiary player. Could have easily won Finals MVP, I think, in 2008. One of those 3 could have won Finals MVP, and I wouldn't have batted an eye at it. And was also, had one of the best first-round series of all time in 2009. I mean, I thought that was the most fun I ever had watching a first-round series. The 2009 series between the Bulls and the Celtics, and Ray Allen was the best player in that series.
Hey, as far as competition goes, it's because I know other ones will get higher because they mean more, but that is the best series I've ever seen play.
Yes.
It's sort of back and forth. Each team takes a lead. Each team wins on the road. There's like, 5 different games go to overtime, I think. I think only one game the Celtics won that was kind of out of reach. Every other game was down to the wire. I mean, we're going to overtime, double overtime, triple overtime. I mean, it's just that is just the best series. We did a breakdown actually on it last year and how good a fucking series that is. Like if you're a fan of basketball, and like it wound up perfect with the Garnett injury and the Rose emergence, because that's when I first noticed Rose. I was like, damn, dude, this Rose is really for real. And then that was kind of Rondo's breakout performance too, because Rondo really stepped up in that series as well.
Yeah, he averaged a near triple-double in that first round, I believe.
Yeah, I think with the Ray Allen thing, because I remember the Sonics started off really hot that year with the same year with the Suns 05. Because Ray Allen's peaks, 05, 06, 07. The winning, he's like 24 game, then he goes up 25, 26, maybe 26.8 or something like that. Hit that game winner against the Suns in double overtime. Matter of fact, I was watching that game. It's the same night Kobe Bryant goes for 81. Ray Allen hits a game winner from fucking far over the Suns to win in double overtime. That year with 06 Suns, they lost like a bunch of close games and shit. I mean, they really could have probably won like 60 games if they would have won their overtime games and all that. Sure. But yeah, so part of the Seattle problem is I think they start off like 36-9. I mean, they're fucking on fire, right? And then they go like 18-19 down the stretch. And and it gets worse the further down in the season it goes. Like I think the last 12 games they're 2-10 or some shit like that. So I think that also hurt him too, because he looked good, but then looks like he'd start strong, but finish weak, and that was like his best. Clearly, he was the best player, best team success up to that point, and I think that kind of hurt his shit too, And then it looked like they kind of struggled with the Kings, and then they got beat by the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Jules, you got anything to add on Real?
No, Ray Allen is one of my favorite players of all time. You guys both really took the places in which I wanted to say, and I did do some personal evals with Ray Allen, relooking when he was the number one option, specifically in Seattle. In that 05 series, again, we were talking about having 2 6'11", 7-foot guys and extending the floor. I know that we were Mr. Thunder, Nick Collison, is beloved in OKC. He is dog shit in that series because Ray Allen is creating in just PNR against specifically Tim Duncan, creating great opportunities for Nick Collison, getting dribble penetration and just completely dismantling Tim Duncan in 05 in PNR. And Nick Collison, I don't know if he's hearing footsteps from Tim Duncan or I don't know, but he goes like 1 of 12 in right underneath the rim on wide open layup. So like there's no contest, there's nothing. It's awful.
I don't ever remember Nick Collison shooting it from anywhere else.
I'm sure he
has.
That's what I mean.
I can't ever think of a Nick Collison shot outside of 5 feet.
He's taken probably a couple middies, but at least that specific series, definitely not. But he's not making anything, and Ray Allen's creating these opportunities for him. So it's like he should easily average at least 7 assists at minimum, and I think he averages like 3, maybe 2. Like it's dreadful. But Ray Allen is one of my favorite players of all time. And it's funny because when we talk about Ray Allen, no one talks about Seattle. No one talks about the Bucks at all. They just think of him as the Celtics and the shot that he saved LeBron's career for. Like it's.
I just want to say
disgusting.
about the Celtics thing, it's bullshit that they haven't retired his fucking number yet. They need to get the fuck over it. And by the way, it's the Celtics' fault that he went to the Heat. It's entirely their fault. They tried to trade him, but OJ Mayo failed the physical. He was already on the outs with Rondo, and they had already signed his replacement in Jason Terry. So I know they offered him a no trade clause contract, but everybody knows it was bullshit.
Oops, they had also benched him for Avery Bradley.
They'd also benched him for Avery Bradley. People wanted him gone. He was playing like shit, all that other stuff, right? All that stuff. So that's all that is entirely on Boston. They should retire his number. They should get the fuck over it.
I want to say this too. I think he's one of the best Walters we've ever had play the game. And if we're doing all-time GOAT tweets that got slipped out and made public, I think he's up there. Like top 3. I think he might have the GOAT tweet of all time. The way he described the way he described in great detail how he was going to give that woman cunnilingus. I mean, just point by point. It was like breaking down an offensive play. You know what I mean? Like he was very detailed and descriptive with it. So I'm sure I know why he's one of the greatest shooters of all time. He takes his craft very seriously. So shout out to Walter Ray Allen.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about that shot in the Heat series, what was cool about it is Ray Allen he practiced so fastidiously his 3-point shots that he knows at any spot on the floor how many steps back he needs to take to get behind the line. And that's how I was able to
Well, Hoops. So you probably know who Jack McMullen is, right?
Of course.
Right. So she's supposed to be doing the show. We'll see what's up. She was in her vacation home a while back doing some stuff, so couldn't make it. But anyways, she was telling me a story about how there was like a piece of lint or something in the locker room, and like I guess Ray suffers from like a obsessive compulsive disorder. Like he struggles with shit like that. So there was like a piece of lint on the floor. And he just stared at it for 45 minutes or an hour or something like that for a long time, struggling to resist the urge to pick it up.
Yeah.
So I think that's what made him amazing calves, too, if you ever get a chance to look at that dude's calves. That dude's calves are fucking crazy. Let's move on. Who do we got for 63?
I have Bill Walton. The reason being is it's 2 years. It's a great 2 years. It is.
Yeah, I got you.
It is 2 years, 1 playoff run. As phenomenal as it is, as good as he could have been, as good as he was for those 2 years, even playing 65 and 58 games or whatever it was.
Yeah,
that's what I just can't get over the hump with that, with it being 2 years. So Bill Walton, 63 for me.
I know. I forget who said it. I have T-Mac here. I think somebody has T-Mac 62. I have T-Mac. So I would say T-Mac because Bill Walton for me, I think I had a little bit lower at like 72, 73 because of the 2 years. It's very hard to evaluate Bill Walton. Speaking of injury, T-Mac, great 4 or 5 years, but gets hurt and isn't able to get out of the first round. And arguably peaking as a top 5 player, just like Bill Walton winning MVP. And he's the originator. Doc Rivers is the originator of the 2-1 blown leads, and it's because he has T-Mac. That's where he starts it. A lot of people are saying like, oh, it starts a little bit later on the Clippers. No, it's with T-Mac. It's with him and a whole bunch of injured players, and Mike Miller is arguably the second best player on that team. Grant Hill maybe for a year, but he gets hurt too. It's hard to evaluate T-Mac. The regular season's all-time great. but it hinders him because of the injury. So I have T-Mac here at 63.
Sure.
So I got Paul Ayers in. Where do you guys got him?
I have him a little bit higher. I have him at 58.
Yeah,
I'm cool with him being higher if that's the case. I mean,
I have him 50. I have him 57.
Cool. So I'm cool with doing that. So let's go with that. So we can do Walton or T-Mac. Where you guys want to go with it? I got Walton a little higher because, like, I know you guys got Shea up there in like the 40s to 50s all the time, and Shea's basically got 2 or 3 years too. Where he's
Shea's going to be tough because we're seeing, what we're seeing from him now and what they're probably going to do this year. That's going to be tough. He might shoot up the range.
He's going to skyrocket.
Who's the only one that beat him this year so far?
The Trailblazers.
Blazers, yeah.
Denny Advia. Shout out to them.
Yeah. So, I can go either way. I mean, I like Jules said, T-Mac's got a little bit longer. Never makes it out of the first round. Hardly think that's his fault. He got terribly fucking unlucky with one, Doc Rivers being an idiot and not letting Tim Duncan have his wife on the plane or something, and two, Grant Hill getting injured and eating up all that cap space because T-Mac really wanted to be the playmaker on that team. He wanted to play more of a Pippen role, and him getting all the usage and minutes he did was probably led to what his body breaking down when it did, but definitely was a top 5 player in the league in Orlando. And I think top 5 or 4 in MVP voting, 2-time scoring champ. I
could go. I'll say he's the 3rd or 4th best player in the league.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe 4th, 4th or 5th, maybe. Yeah.
3rd or 4th is So that's fine. So I would probably say I would probably go Walton then T-Mac. I mean, it's kind of tough. Jules, what do you think?
Well, I got nobody at 62 because I got Greer and we already did Greer. So I got nobody at 62. Who's your 62?
I'll defer to Jules.
I'll say I'm comfortable with going Walton then T-Mac. I know Walton peaks a little bit higher and wins 2 titles, but I think T-Mac just has a little bit of a better prime. That's my opinion. Yeah,
T-Mac is awesome for 5 years, from 2000 to 2005. He's as good as any guard in the league, any small forward. And then from 05 to 08, he's still an All-NBA, All-Star level player. And after that, just dramatically drops off. Funny, in 2000, that first Raptors playoff, he's actually the one that showed up, and Vince Carter didn't. So, because I expected Vince Carter to show up and nobody else, and then it's just him.
Yes, sure. Literally.
So that's cool. So then we can go Walton, and then we go T-Mac. Then who'd you guys have at 62 though, real quick?
This is where I had Kevin McHale, and we talked about it last week.
We already got.
I had McGrady and Walton, 63 and 62.
So cool. That works really well for us. We'll lock that in at 63 and 62, and then we got about 10, 15 more minutes. We can discuss the last 2 spots. Who do you guys got at 61 and 60?
Well, I got Dominique Wilkins at 60. Dominique Wilkins. 61? I got Dominique Wilkins at 60. Just 61. I had somebody. I had Embiid, but I remember I switched it around, so I don't even know who we ended up moving him around.
You got no one. Okay. And Jules, you got at 60 and 61.
At 60, I think I don't remember. Did we talk about Powell last week? Because I have Powell at 60.
Yeah, I got him at 59. So yeah, we were talking about keeping him somewhere around there.
Around here.
I had Powell at 66.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think Powell should definitely be within this realm. I have 61. I have John Stockton.
Oh, I have Stockton.
Okay, I got John Stockton. I got John Stockton in the 40s.
Yeah,
I got him.
You guys already know how I feel.
I got John Stockton at 50 exactly. So,
so I got because I kind of said they both peaked at the same time, same era, same position. Didn't really do much, but they put up some hell of a stats. I think their stats are monstrous. I got and this is 61. I got Alex English. 60. I got Adrian Dantley. Where do you guys got this?
I have Alex English at 57. Adrian Dantley, I do not have on my list.
I didn't have Dantley at either Alex English I had at 71, so we can put Alex English there too. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Just real quick though. So you guys don't got a 2-time All-NBA, 2-time scoring champ, Rookie of the Year, 6-time All-Star, Hall of Fame, 4 straight years of over 30. Adrian Dantley, literally, I think he's the best scorer of all time.
And because of the efficiencies and all this kind of stuff, but I know for your sake, I know that you like the impact for winning. Every team that he left, they got better. Every single one.
Totally agree with that. But I also do too like facts like this. He's a 6'3" small forward post player who has one leg shorter than the other, and he's putting up 4 straight years of fucking 30. He had, from what I've seen, because I came up with the same scoring efficiency ratio. I take everybody's shot attempt, free throws, 2-pointers, threes. I take up the tally of points they can score versus what they score. Nobody has ever averaged 30, has a higher percentage of points scored than Adrian Dantley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I just think that
I understand.
So if you guys don't got Dantley, that's cool. I mean, I'm cool with locking in English at 61 and then Gasol at 60. Like I said, I had Gasol 59.
Sure.
But 59, 60 is kind of in median since you had him at 66, I had him at 59.
Yeah.
What is it about English though that you guys think like? Because I mean, I have Dantley actually over. What about English is it that you think is better than Dantley?
Even though you were talking about the scoring efficiencies because of the play style, English led the 80s in scoring. And what moved me was all those all-time offenses that they with English at the helm, with like Kiki and David Thompson for a short period of time. English is the one who's at the helm, and mind you, he's given Magic 30. Like, because at that time that I believe they had Scott, Cooper, and Worthy, and Magic's being slotted to go and guard English, and he's not being able to do it. I think English is incredibly underrated as a scorer. I know the efficiencies won't play with Adrian Dantley, but I think the totals will, because when you're leading a scoring in a decade, specifically the 80s, at the pace in which they're doing it, that impacts me. And I think English's offenses become very underrated when it comes to all-time talks, because the Nuggets are just running or on pace with the Lakers from majority of these years throughout the first half of the 80s. It's just that they don't have the personnel defensively to match up with them.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I think Adrian Dantley, Alex English has more playoff appearances, more playoff translation. I think 30 points per game on a run to the Western Conference Finals in 85 maybe, where they lose to the Lakers in maybe 5 or 6 games. I think he's a better playmaker. Alex English in his prime is going to give you like 4 or 5 assists per game. Adrian Dantley's going to get you 2, right? I just think what he did was more impactful to winning. And like Joel said, the historic offense is the highest scoring game of all time. Nuggets were on one end of that game with the Pistons, right? So I just valued the way, Alex English was able to, I think he was able to elevate his team more. I think he was able to be in better winning situations because maybe he wasn't as efficient of a scorer as Dantley. Maybe nobody is as efficient a scorer as Dantley, but it's kind of like Wilt in the early 60s and Hakeem in the late 80s, early 90s, where it just becomes a black hole and he never really comes out of that, Like Joel said, the teams that he leaves get better after he leaves. The Pistons win right after they trade him away. It's kind of like Carmelo Anthony, who you wanted to kick.
Literally Melo of the 80s.
I've
said that multiple
Carmelo
occasions.
Anthony. It's the same thing.
But wait a minute. But Melo's inefficient. You know what I mean? Inefficient
Sure.
is why he's doing it too. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
That's the biggest difference for me. I think we got to watch. You know what we got to do sometimes? We ought to watch that 1984 series where the Jazz and Nuggets play each other. And Dantley averages like 31 and English averages 30. Game 1's really good. Game 4 is good.
Yeah, I rewatched that like 2 months ago. I think that was actually a pretty decent watch.
Yeah. Because Dantley outplays him. Like I said, I'm not going to say just because Dantley outplayed him or whatever. But yeah, Dantley outplays him in that series or whatever. Like I said, it's really just more so what makes him great to me is, like I said, to be doing all those things while being a 6'3", small forward with one leg shorter than the other. You know what I mean? That is just an amazing fucking feat. You know, kind of like who's the guy that they recently just signed with the one arm?
Oh shit!
He's gonna play. You know what I mean?
Yes. What is?
So I'm gonna put it this way: that dude averages 30 versus someone else averaging 30. His 30 is just gonna be more impressive to me.
Fair enough.
Sure, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Just some shit like that. So then we're locking in English at 61 and Gasol at 60.
Sure.
I'm with that.
There we go. Hoops, we need some videos, bro.
I know. I got to get on it.
So, and this is just a little teaser because I'm working on it. It's going to take me a while. Like I said, I've been working on this for it takes me at least a couple days to do each one. But we're going to start doing best players on seasons just to clear up some shit and all that. I got a question to ask you. Just what would make someone the best player on a team? Is it if they're the best player in the most amount of games? Is if they have the highest highs? Like, what would do that? What would make someone the best player? Because to me, it would just be the best player in the most amount of games.
Yeah. Or best player most amount of games for a season, but it could also be it could be different in the playoffs, right? Like we just talked about Pau. Pau Gasol's the best player in the regular season for the Bulls. Jimmy Butler's the best player in the playoffs. You know, so I it's not necessarily. We can compartmentalize it to certain points in the season, but I would say the best player.
Jimmy Butler takes the regular season like he's just coming off 6 straight championships.
That's why I'm a Jimmy Butler
like he's just came off 6 titles.
I'm not a Jimmy Butler guy because I think that exact thing. I think he coasts a lot.
He does. Yeah, that's fair. He does coast a lot. And maybe that's what he's, doing in 15. But, that leads to Pau Gasol being the best player in the regular season, but not in the playoffs. The playoffs, it's clearly Jimmy Butler. So, I would say the best player, the most amount of games makes sense to me. That's typically how it goes. We talked about. Go ahead.
We're gonna get into this. But what do you say with Bill Russell playing less games in 57 than Cousy, but he's the best player in more games by far, and Cousy has a head start.
Cousy wins the MVP. Yeah, I mean, I'd venture to say Cousy's probably better in the finals that year. So I think that can play into account to it, but. Bill Russell comes in late because he's playing in the Olympics. That is when they don't win until he comes in, right? He is the difference. Tommy Heinsohn's there too, but I would say, I think it's fair to say because the very next year Bill Russell wins the MVP, right? So it could have just been just the reason Cousy wins is because Russell comes in later, right? So,
hey, I'll tell you what, Heinsohn for the first couple of years, when he's having a good game, he's the best player. It's just that only happens about once every 8 games or so.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Yeah. Anything else we want to hit before we bounce?
No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good, Tony.
Okay, there you go. We're good. So we'll check y'all next week with more bullshit that we're gonna do. Let's see if I can end this up. Let me see. There we go.
Oh, Canada. Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.